is Dee, and welcome back to my kitchen. In honor of what would have been my father's 79th birthday, today I will be making a cheesecake swirl carrot bundt cake. Carrot cake was my father's favorite type of cake, and so in honor of him, follow along today as I make this bundt cake. Now, if you've visited my channel before, you know I always like to tell you about what gadgets I'll be using. So today I will be using a stand mixer. I'll be using this bundt pan. I'll also be using this grater, one side to grate my carrots. I've already done that. And then the other side I use in order to to zest an orange that we'll need for this recipe. I also used a peeler. I'll be using this rubber spatula and my handy dandy cake tester. So follow along as we prepare this delicious carrot bundt cake. All of the measurements for the ingredients for this recipe will be listed in the description box, but this is what you'll need. You'll need vegetable oil, room temperature eggs, dark or light brown sugar, unsweetened applesauce, vanilla extract, and guys, I decided to go ahead and share with you my favorite. This is my favorite vanilla extract. So this is the one that I always use. So you'll need vanilla extract. You will also need the zest of one orange. You'll need all-purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt, ground cinnamon, ground ginger, ground nutmeg, and ground clove. You'll also need peeled and shredded carrots. And optional, I'm adding, because my daddy loved pecans, you'll need also chopped pecans. Now for the cheesecake layer, you're gonna need softened room temperature cream cheese. You'll need granulated sugar, 1 room temperature egg, my wonderful vanilla extract again, and there's a glaze on top of this cake just to add more deliciousness. You'll need confectionery sugar, orange juice, or milk. One additional gadget that you're going to need in order to prepare this recipe, you're going to need a sturdy whisk. So I've already preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and I've already prepared my bundt pan. I sprayed it generously with the baking spray. So to this bowl, we are going to whisk our oil, eggs. Remember, your eggs need to be room temperature. Applesauce. Make sure we got all of that out of there. Our vanilla and our orange zest. All right. And we are going to also add to our bowl our brown sugar. And we're going to mix all of these ingredients together until our brown sugar is no longer lumpy. And let's not forget our beautiful vanilla extract. We'll need a teaspoon of that. And I'm using vanilla bean paste today. I use this from time to time instead of my vanilla extract. I actually don't notice whether or not there's a difference in the taste, but I just like switching it up sometimes. Make sure we got all of that vanilla bean paste. Excellent. Okay, and we're going to whisk this together until there are no lumps in our brown sugar. Okay, there we go. And then we are going to set this aside. And actually, I'm going to get another whisk because we're going to need our whisk again in order to combine our dry ingredients. And then we're going to add our wet to our dry, and we're gonna get this cake in the oven in no time. So let me get my other whisk. Ta-da! It's always good to have 2 little gadgets. So let's whisk together all of our dry ingredients that we've already added to this bowl. And guys, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my dad as I do this. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. He served in the 101st Airborne Division. He was a paratrooper. And when my dad got his honorable discharge, he was given the Purple Heart. And that is something that I'm so proud of his service. So now, the next thing we're going to do, we are going to pour our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. And what I wish I would have done was use this large bowl for the dry and maybe the smaller bowl for the wet, but I think it's all gonna fit together. And we're just gonna mix these two together. Yeah, there we go. It's gonna fit. No worries, because this bowl that I'm using is actually an 8-cupper. Pour that in. Alright, and then we're going to mix this together using our rubber scraper or rubber spatula, whichever you want to call it. And then after this, we are going to fold in our carrots and our pecans. And then we're going to place this batter into our prepared bowl. Another wonderful thing to tell you guys about my daddy. My parents were divorced. So my sister and I, my second sister, and I would go, because my older sister, she was in college at the time, I believe. We would go and visit my daddy at his apartment, and we loved listening to music. My dad had a large record collection, very large record collection. As a matter of fact, I have his records, I sure do. And my favorite record to listen to every weekend would be Stevie Wonder. And my sister's favorite album to listen to would be anything Natalie Cole, and then several years later it became Anita Baker. But we loved listening to music at my dad's apartment, and he would give us a whole lecture on the proper way to hold an album. You don't just hold it, put your fingerprints on it. You have to gently hold the album and place it on the record player, and gently place the needle on the record, not dropping it down. So he would first give us a lecture and then let us have our freedom in listening to all of his records. Okay, so that was pretty easy, guys. So the next thing we're gonna do, we are going to fold in our carrots and our pecans. Recipe calls for us to pour half of our batter into our prepared pan. So we're just going to add that in. And guys, I must say, you know, I often think I had other friends whose parents were divorced, but you know, that's the only life that I knew. When my dad returned from Vietnam, my parents, their marriage didn't make it. But my dad, he was the best. He made sure that we had everything we needed and wanted. Every program at school, he was always there. I mean, he was just an outstanding dad. And I think that is what has propelled me to be such a good parent. So now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to prepare our cream cheese mixture, because we're going to actually layer that on top of our first layer of batter, and then come back and top it off with the rest of our batter. So let's get the ingredients together to make the cream cheese frosting. I could have probably used my hand mixer for this, but because I already have my stand mixer out, I'm going to go ahead and prepare this in my stand mixer. To our stand mixer, we are going to add our room temperature softened cream cheese, and we're going to blend this for about a minute, just until it's well combined. And then we will add our remaining ingredients. We will add our egg, our vanilla extract, and our sugar. probably tell you, not probably, I will tell you, I should have used my handheld mixer because my KitchenAid stand mixer is so large, and this is not a large amount of cream cheese. It's having just a little bit of difficulty mixing this together. So I may switch to my handheld. Let's see. Yeah, because it's such a small amount, let's go ahead and switch this out to the handheld. Thank God I have one. Just like that, I'm done. Yeah, that was a better choice. Actually, the recipe says that use either or. All right, let's put that over there. And now what we're going to do, we are going to take the cream cheese mixture and we're going to add it to our pan. You want to make sure, you want to be careful not to get any of your cream cheese mixture on touching the sides of your pan, because you want it to cook into the batter. All right, let's just go ahead and add this. I love the way that you can see the little specks of the vanilla bean in the mixture. And now we're going to add the remainder of our batter on top of this delicious smelling cream cheese mixture. And there you have it. So now we are going to place our cake in the oven to bake for 55, the recipe says for 55 to 75 minutes, or until you insert a toothpick, but you know I'm using my cake tester. You place a toothpick into the cake and it comes out clean. So let's go ahead and place this in the oven. Okay, our oven timer just went off. So I baked it for 50 minutes. Let's see if it's done. Our recipe says 55 to 70 minutes. If you find that your cake is really brown on the top, but it's not quite done, the directions say add a little foil to the top and add about 10 minutes to it. So let's check it and see. Insert my little cake tester. Okay, according to the cake tester, it says that it's about 90% done. It is pretty brown on the top, so what I'm going to do, I am going to add the foil and add maybe about 5 more minutes to our oven timer. But I don't want it to overbake, so I am going to add that foil. Let's do 5 minutes and then we'll come back and check it in just a moment. All right, there goes our oven timer. Let's check our cake again. It's been an additional 5 minutes. And if you're using a toothpick, remember, if your toothpick comes out clean, then your cake is done. Yep, and that extra 5 minutes did it. All right, let's shut our oven off. All righty. Oh, that smells so good. Oh my goodness. Oh, it smells so good. I gotta let you see this, and then I want you to see what my cake tester does and why I love it so much. So, can you see that? It says done. Hopefully you can see that clearly. All right, so what our recipe calls for now is we're gonna let this cake cool for about 30 minutes in this pan, and then we will invert it onto this baking rack and let it cool completely before we add our glaze. Our cake is cooled for about 30 minutes. Now the recipe calls for us to invert it onto a wire cooling rack and let it cool completely. We still have one more step. We've got to make a glaze. Now this particular glaze for this cake says that you can use milk or orange juice, but I figure because there's orange zest already in the cake, I didn't want to, I don't know, I just thought that would be just a little bit too much. So I'm going to mix together confectionery sugar and the milk and make a simple glaze. So let's go ahead and invert the cake. And this is warm enough, I don't even need my oven mitts. All right, one, let's do it this way. And 1, 2, 3. There we go. Oh wow, that looks delicious. So I'm gonna let this cake cool completely on this baking rack, probably for about another 15-20 minutes, and then we will prepare our glaze. But just to give you just a little bit more about me and my family, my father has 2 sisters, 2 of which are still alive. My oldest aunt just made 80, and we are so happy about that. And then as far as my family, I have 2 sisters who are still living. I have an older sister and a middle sister, and then I have a brother who's deceased. But I love my family. We're small, but we're a good family. And there you have it. The glaze is quite thin. If I were to do this again, I would lessen the amount of milk just because I like a thicker glaze. Alrighty, you know what's coming up next. What time is it? What time is it? Taste test time. Okay, here we go. I think that my father would love this cake, even though it's not the traditional carrot cake where you have the cream cheese frosting in layers. I think he would love this. Let's see if we can see. Look at there. I'm gonna bring it up close so you can see it. Look at the cream cheese layer in the middle. See that? Nice and soft. All right, here we go. Now, I've never made this cake before. This is my first time. That's really good. Okay, let me tell you the difference here. So with this cake, because there's clove and several other spices, it gives it more of a spice cake taste. You can't necessarily taste the carrots, but you can definitely see the carrots. They didn't turn green, because sometimes you find that when baking a carrot cake that your carrots can sometimes turn green, and that's due to you not shredding the carrots. So I definitely suggest that you shred your carrots when doing this recipe. Definitely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me on my channel today and learning a little bit about my father. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment. Because if you don't do those things, how am I going to know you want me to continue doing what I do? And I want to give a shout out to my Aunt Nita and my Aunt Leanie. And I want to give a shout out to my sisters. You know who you are. As we celebrate Daddy's birthday this month. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Be blessed. Bye.